All right, all right, all right. We are live. It says we're live on StreamYard at least. We'll give everybody a few minutes to get their notifications and come in if you're watching the recording and you didn't get a chance to catch this live. Um, please stay with us. We're going to get started soon. So what we're doing right now is just giving people some time to get notifications, to get settled. Usually takes about 5 minutes or so. We won't wait that long, but we'll give people just a couple of minutes to come in before we get going. We've got another special guest this week. I'm very excited about this special guest. Sandy Moore of Hempbox, etc., will be joining us to talk about her story. She and I had a really awesome conversation a few weeks ago, and I wanted to give her a chance to share her story with what she's doing down in the ATL. Um, so stay tuned for that. Before we get into that, though, of course, we'll talk about the plant, Raspberry Parfait, how she's doing. She's in week 3.5 right now, doing very well. So I wanted to give everybody an update on the plant. And for those of you that are live and joining, you can always ask questions in the comments. I see your comments. I can bring them up. I can respond to them on the fly. So if you've got if you got the will and the audacity to put your comments in, please do. We enjoy it, we love it, and we definitely like to know where people are watching us from. How did you find us, etc. So we're going to get started really soon, just giving people about another minute or so to get the notification so that we can uh, get started and not really leave a lot of people behind. So stick with us. All right. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. We're going to get started right now. We've got a lot to cover today. So, just for those of you that have been following the Trella Live series, I do this every week. Um, Now we're doing it Mondays at 7:30 p.m. We think that this is a much better time for everybody. People are able to be here. Before we were doing it at 11:30, and people are busy with their lives and their work, etc. So 7:30 p.m. it is. So for those of you that are rocking with us tonight, thank you for joining. What we're going to do is a couple of things, and let me show you that. First, we're going to talk about Raspberry Parfait, the plant. How she's doing. You can see she's right behind me. I've got two cameras going, one on the plant, one on me, and she is in her week 3.5, I like to call it, of her flowering phase. So I wanted to first talk about the plant. How do we get to this phase? How she's doing now, what we can expect next. And then after that, we're going to intro in our special guest this week. Um, Last week we had a special guest, and I really like that. I don't know, for those of you that have maybe been following me for a few years, you may have known that I had a podcast before, and I used to do some stuff on my own, but I used to bring in guests. And when I had our guest last week, I just really forgot and I recalled how much I enjoy having guests on this show. It's really an opportunity for me to get to talk to people that I don't really always get a chance to really connect with and engage with. I always invite people on that I've learned something from, that are doing something that I want to be doing, or that I can get some sort of insight from. So this guest, Sandy Moore from Hempbox, etc., falls into that category. She and I had a really awesome conversation about a few weeks ago. So I want to bring her in so that she can share more about what she's up to in Atlanta. So before we do that, let's talk about this plant. I want to show a recent. I'm going to zoom in because right now I know the light might be kind of hard to see what she looks like up close. So let me show you this. There we go. So this is today. I took the same video this morning. You can see a nice zoom in. She's getting frosty. You can see the trichomes coming in around that flower. So we're at week 3.5. For those of you that are new to Trella and what we do, we are the creators of TrellaGro LST. That LST stands for a low stress trainer. Basically, what it is it's a system that will automatically or manually help you grow a plant sideways, horizontally, in a tight confined space. So you can grow one plant sideways and really max out that yield. So what you're looking at right now on my screen, when we zoom out again, is one plant. That's just one plant filling a 2 foot by 4 foot grow tent. And the goal is to max out these plant count limits. For those of you that are home growers, that might be caregivers, that might be, people that grow for your family, for your friends, for your community, or for yourself, you probably have, if you're growing cannabis, a plant count limitation. And I have a plant count limitation too. So it really makes the most sense for us to make the most out of each individual plant, especially for those of us that want to stay legal and stay legit. So this system is designed to make the most out of each individual plant. It also controls the height so you can get it in tight vertical spaces. So what you're looking at right now is the flowering phase. And before this, we were in the vegetation phase where we trained the plant and grew it sideways. So if you haven't had a chance to see this, you could do two things. You could follow us on Instagram. There's a lot of stuff there about how we got to this phase. You'll see how we grow that plant sideways, how this does it for you. Um, and we also have a Patreon. So I'll drop the Patreon link shortly, but the Patreon shows every week's progress from the very first week that we started in veg all the way to where we are now. That Patreon will show you that as well. And we got a lot more to come. The reason why we're doing a Patreon is because we want to help build out this community. And if you consider yourself to be a caregiver or a community farmer of some aspect and you grow for others, specifically you grow not just for yourself, but you also grow for someone else, I'm telling you, stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. We got you. We know that TrellaGro LST is very attractive to a lot of you, but maybe your budget just doesn't allow you to be able to tap into it right now. Our goal as a benefit corporation is to make sure that as many people as possible get access to our technology. So we're going to make sure that we can do that for you. So stay tuned. We've got more. We're going to have an announcement on that in the next few weeks. So if you're a caregiver or a community farmer, continue to stay engaged. Follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Smash the like button. Do all that lovely stuff. It helps the algorithms too, and we really appreciate it. Okay, so let me switch it back up and remove this, and we could talk about our next guest. So I'm going to bring up this image here just to intro in what drew me to reach out to Sandy Moore. I want to show you that before I bring Sandy on, so you get a little bit of a taste of what this lady can do. All right. So this is her Instagram page, Hempbox, etc. at Hempbox. You can hear the sound.
Don't you get mad at me, cause you're raw and chose up. Glad
Let
to
that
see
sound play
the
just a little
truck
bit.
when I pulled up. Don't you get mad at me, cause you're raw and chose up.
So there is a container that she built out specifically to provide CBD and hemp products to people in the Atlanta area. And it looks awesome. The outside of it looks awesome. I know the inside of it is all decked out. She's going to talk more about that. But Sandy has quite the history before even getting into hemp, as many of us do. A lot of people in the cannabis space started doing something before we got into cannabis because technically there really wasn't, or hemp, technically because there really wasn't an industry for us. But now there is, and it's really awesome to see people doing all types of stuff. So without much further ado, let's intro in Miss Sandy Moore. Hello, hello.
Hi, thanks for having me, Asia.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. I know it was last minute when I sent them. I sent a request last minute. I know you're very busy, so I am very thankful for your grace and time to sit with us tonight and share your story with the Trella audience.
Thank you for having me. I always make time for the sisters, for the hood, for the women of color, and for people of color. I mean, I make time for everybody, but specifically for us, because we don't get the message out. It's stifled somewhere, and we're not able to share our stories and motivate someone else to do what we're doing. So, Thank you for having me, and I hope not to fumble the bag in this interview.
There's no there's no way that you could do that. I mean, because honestly, you and I had a conversation, and I really just want to kind of repeat that conversation for everyone else so that they can hear what it is that I heard that made me really think, man, you know, Sandy's doing something in the same realm of something that container farming has always been something that Trella has been interested in, growing in containers. And here I saw you with this decked out hemp box, and I'm like, wow. And then when I learned a little bit more about your background and what you did that created the idea of Hempbox, I was like, I got to stay connected to Sandy. I don't know, how this what will come to fruition, but I figured let's stay connected. So, can you share just a little bit with the Trella audience about you and what you did before you got into Hempbox, etc.?
Sure. So my career before Hempbox, although I probably don't look like it, and my last talk was about cannabis don't box me in, because people just envision you to be a certain look a certain way or dress a certain way when you have or they hear your background story. So I made a joke about that and said the only box you're gonna catch me in is hemp box. So don't box, right? But I am a 10-year Army veteran. I joined the Army when I was 17 years old. And I stayed until I was, do the math on that, I think I was 30, 29, yeah, something like that. And I just had this active idea of all the duty stations that, I was assigned to, that I would, collect something from that duty station that I could then use in civilian life. Because a lot of times when people join the different services of military, your goals are different. Sometimes it's because that's your family's, history, and it's just a a staple of a part of their lineage. My grandfather was Army, my uncle was Army, so I'm Army. But for Air Force, we had that one stray, that got away to the Air Force, and one got away to the Navy. And I always tell them that, you know, they weren't real military, but we always have those jokes as veterans.
I've heard, yep.
But thank everyone for their service in time. Um, I did serve one tour of combat, and it was there that I had this overwhelming experience, and then found out that I was diagnosed with PTSD because of those conditions. And a lot of veterans, you know, suffer with this, and it is something that they didn't want to talk about. And to this day, it takes that courage for you to kind of finally bring it out to the surface, because it actually is a collective of many things, not just that one scenario or one situation that the military had placed you in. It's
Mhm.
about a combination of all your training and your thought process. When you get out of the military, like how strict and regulated you are with your own self, and then
Mm.
you're trying to integrate yourself into society, as we would call it. Like, what is that like? Having an hour and a half lunch break, and then coming into the real world, it's like, oh, you get two 15s and a 30. Like, what is that? What does that mean? I don't even know the math. Like, you're throwing me off. But just having those experiences, I decided that each duty station that I would go to, I would ensure that I learned something from each duty station. And I remember we had this one assignment that I was on. I believe it was Fort Stewart, Georgia, and we had to load vehicles on the railroad, which they call the railhead, just like when you see the trains passing by.
Mhm.
And we would have certain carts, as you see with Hempbox, the containers. We would pack the containers full of our supplies as we were deploying, and then we would then load the vehicles behind them. So I was like, wow, you can put a whole truck, or you could put a whole company in this thing. Like,
Mm.
what else can we do with this? And I kind of like tabled that idea, or place it away in a different space in the brain for later. And I ended up getting out of the military after 10 years, and getting kind of acclimated to the services that they were providing to me through Department of Veteran Affairs to kind of cope with the anxiety and the depression and the PTSD. And a friend of mine was working over in Kuwait. Actually, her and her girlfriend. And they were like, girl, you need to come over here. They got all the kind of jobs that we used to do in the Army, but we get paid like triple. I was like, no way. I was like, what? I said, but then it's putting us back in the same scenario like when we were in combat. She said, no, it's totally different. We're civilians. We're safe. We're on like a different base. We're not even around all that. So I had them to send me a couple of emails because back then, when no video streaming and all that stuff back then, telling my age, but not really. And from those photos, I kind of felt like, well, hell, let me take a chance on that. And I was contracting for about 5 years in Kuwait at this place called Camp Arifjan, Kuwait, which is like the base of operations. You arrive there, and if it was in combat zone, everybody comes there as the base, and then they, are distributed out, or military equipment is distributed out to those other countries that are in the they call it the sandbox. That's what we call it, the sandbox. But it was basically Southwest Asia units that were surrounded, like Qatar, Bahrain. Some units had Dubai as an assignment. Go figure, get Dubai as an assignment. I was like, why I can't go there? But it was, or in Camp Doha. And so it kind of gave us like a sense of you can still be calm and have the camaraderie that you had when you were in the military, because I found that being a civilian after I got out, it just wasn't working. Like, people were not receptive to how I was feeling, and I didn't have anybody really to talk to. You kind of felt like the odd man out, everyone else who's, fresh out of college, or somebody who's been, working in corporate America. They don't know what that feels like. So it kind of just, made me feel in a safe space and place, even though, maybe an hour and a half away, there were some activity that was still kind of warlike going on. But we weren't, privy to that, girl. We would be at all of these different parties. We'd be having DJs and after work, but it was some long hours of days. We only had like 6 days. You work 6 days, and you may have been off one day of those 6 days.
Wow.
But again, shout out to, DOD civilians for doing that job. Like, it took us, like, we'd have 16-hour days, and everybody's like, oh, no, that's tax-free money. Yeah, but you put in some time for that tax-free money.
Yeah, you pay for it in some way. Yeah.
Some way. So that leads me to one of the jobs that I had. I started off as security installation, basically force protection, making sure that everyone is checked and their vehicles are checked before they enter into the base. And you kind of like network, kind of like in the cannabis space, and you talk to, people and share what your real interests are, because that's kind of like an entry point to get there. And I basically met this wonderful supervisor who moved me into security operations. And I was now like not holding all these big heavy guns and being ate by dust mites and stuff out there in the elements. And it was there that she would have put me on assignment to go and check the containers to ensure that they were properly locked. And I just had like this full circle moment about the shipping containers, and when I was, active duty, how I used to see them on the railhead. And I'm like, dang, this is where they end up. And they just sitting here. I mean, it'd be like thousands of them, not hundreds, it'd be thousands. But, I wasn't responsible to check all 1,000, but it's just certain ones, they give you like a grid square to check by the end of your duty, and report in, log in, and, basically logistics and tracking what was in them to where they needed to go. And so after that whole ordeal, I knew about containers. I knew what the numbers meant. I knew what the placards meant. I knew that they were sitting there, and I knew they were going back stateside. But now, just as when in the military, I didn't know where they were going, and then I found out that they were going in Kuwait. Now I'm going back stateside after I, did my 5-year stint. That's what I say.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out that people were now in the movement of the tiny house nation.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Oh, yeah, they were using them for sheds. They were using them for backyard offices. They were using them for tool sheds, many medical facilities. We saw a lot of that with Hurricane Katrina, that they were setting and using those up with FEMA. And I had a temporary job with them for a while, and they were shocked that I knew so much about the shipping containers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so fast forward to me coming back and seeing that, I was like, okay, I need to now do something that still has me in this comrade, you know, mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Best thing was law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
In my
Team. Yeah.
mind, yes, the team camaraderie, the spirit,
Mm-hmm.
the core, the morale boosting, type of feeling that I needed. And here in the local metro area, I won't name the organization, but I was in 2 jurisdictions, and I served a total of 12 years, where one is community based and the other one was in a set of schools. So I served as a school resource officer in the latter part of my career, which
Mm.
was, and that's what leads us to the journey of Hempbox, how Hempbox was created. And it was during COVID that we would have to take the kids their meals out on the school buses because, at that time, there was no school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Weren't at work, right?
Yep.
Um, but those essential personnel, and I was essential, obviously, but they needed security because the school buses had volunteers on them.
Mm-hmm.
And those people may not necessarily have ever ventured into those particular areas of Atlanta, being that they were kind of low poverty areas, and they, rightfully so. I mean, you didn't grow up in that. You didn't, you may have felt a little fear going in there, but you still wanted to provide for the kids, and that was our duty, just to make sure that everyone was safe on scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was a parent, as we were. As they were distributing the meals, and I was just kind of, watching traffic, and he started smoking. He just sparked one up, and I was like, "Don't he see what I got on?" And, it's like that. It's like that. It's like that. I don't know if it's a TikTok, but it's like Medea. Like, he don't see me. He don't
Yeah.
see
And
me.
this is in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
Georgia. So Georgia is still not 100% copacetic about
Nope.
this yet.
Nope. Nope.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
ain't 100. We're not even 50% copacetic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I was just like, you know what? Let that man smoke his whatever. And so he just, kept doing it. And I was like, well, you know what? I want to know why he felt like he could. It's not that he could just do it, but I just want to know why he felt to do it now, like
Mm.
with the kids and everyone outside, and the bus, and then the officers there and stuff. So I said, "How you doing today, sir?" He was like, "I'm fine, officer."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Okay, I see where this is going." I said, he said, "Oh, you want me to put this out?" I said, "Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I didn't come over here for that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know, why are you smoking? I just want to know, do you have, some type of, family stress? Are you dealing with some things that, you would like to talk to somebody about?" I said, because we have those resources, and that's what we're here for. We're not here to penalize you for, smoking your cannabis. That's your thing.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
said, "Officer, thank you for saying that." He said, "Actually, I lost my wife, and these are my 4 kids that are standing in line. I lost my job." And he said, "This is the only way that I can make it through. And I don't like smoking in the house. So every day I come out here and I kind of stand off to the side." He said, "But today I was a little bit closer than what I normally am."
Mm.
Said that he just decided to spark up. And he said it's very stressful. He was dealing with anxiety and stress, and having to feel like the man of the house was not providing for his kids.
Yeah,
And
that's heavy. That's heavy.
really heavy. And I'm like, gosh, and I'm like, here I am thinking, almost judged him for like smoking, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I put my pride aside to just go over and have a conversation. And he said that it was hard for the simplest things to just log onto his kid's computer, all of them, 4 of them, different computers, different ages. Like,
Mm.
I believe they were like from maybe first grade to 7th grade. So, that's already 2 schools right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, well, here in the South, I don't know what it is, or maybe that's
No,
more.
no, that would be, yeah, like an elementary and a middle school. You
Yeah.
got 2 different systems and curriculum and all that. Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, he was just like, he struggled with that, and not having people want to come by and, check on the kids, like social services, because she died from COVID.
Oh, shit.
Oh, wow, right. And I said, you know what, sir, here's my card. I said, if you ever need anything, I said, it's not typical for us to repeat the same route, because they want us to learn, the community, and be available to, just be with different volunteers. And
Mhm.
I not see me, ever again, but I want you to know that I support you. Whatever you need, here's my card. And needless to say, he never called, but I always thought about the guy, and I did try to go back to that route one time, but I didn't see him again.
Yeah.
I was thinking, when, after all that happened, maybe a week passed, and I was like, well, if we're delivering food to kids on the buses during COVID, and there's a man smoking, you know, why we can't deliver hemp and CBD? Because that's what we,
That's
or
allowed in Georgia, yeah.
that's what you got to utilize what you can work with, right?
Mhm.
I was like, I like that idea. So I started brainstorming, and I was like, oh, how I'm gonna do it. I said, I can do it in a food truck, but I was like, am I gonna be able to do it in a food truck? I was like, okay, but I can't infuse the foods, because being that I was a veteran and law enforcement, I always stuck to SOPs, right?
Mm.
That's what a lot of employers love about hiring veterans and ex or former police officers, because you're disciplined to
You
know.
follow directions to the
Yeah,
T, as my mother used to say.
right. And there's no room for error, right?
Yep, yep.
But like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna push the envelope, and I think that I've created this gray space, and now everybody will know what it is. But um, I created that gray area, that no one knows the answer to. Can you actually have that on the food truck? Who knows? Nobody stopped me yet, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Just as amazed as you are, and I appreciate this opportunity to explain that. This whole journey and this whole process, because it just came from that man over there, minding his business and trying to take care of his kids the best way he knew how. And my experience with the shipping containers kind of, came back. It just circled back around. I was like, oh, dude, I can put the shipping container on a trailer, and I can haul that joke around myself, right?
Mhm,
Now I'm going wherever I want to in the metro Atlanta area, right?
mhm.
Now meet the needs of um, anyone in the metro area, or in the state of Georgia. So it was about the connectability to people. How could I reach a different group of people versus being stationary? Because mostly you see shipping containers, they're stationary, and
Right.
it's like usually villages, or your idea for the grow house, they're stationary, they're not mobile.
Mhm.
Piece of our conversation that we had,
Yep, yep.
but I just wanted to be able to let folks know that everything on Hempbox can be consumed from a kid, a toddler, all the way up to grandma, grandpa. So I did not infuse the foods with CBD and hemp. I just used hemp products, such as
Mhm,
hemp protein powder, hemp seeds. I found a hemp honey. Everything, I just did a play on hemp.
mhm.
And I remember going to New Orleans for my first conference after leaving law enforcement. And I said that I was going to share this, but I didn't know who I was going to share it with, because there were lots of entrepreneurs there in New Orleans for Black Cannabis that was hosted by Christy Price. And there was this guy, Mr. John, and I was early bird gets the worm, right? And he asked me, what were you here for? What are you here for? So tell me a little bit about your story. So I gave him the story about Hempbox, and how I decided to retrofit it and put it on a trailer and haul it around to educate Georgians on CBD and hemp. health and wellness. That's the
Hmm.
whole. Um, he said that is the most innovative shit I've heard all year.
Nice.
I was real. Now, see, in my mind, I was thinking it was real cheesy because of it does look small, in a picture. But when you
Mhm.
see, when you're there, it's like, damn, it's like little, but it's big.
Yeah,
And especially when you go inside, like people don't expect for me to have all that inside. I'm like,
and
yeah,
you can cover a lot of geography too because of the way that you did it. Small, you could put it on the back of a truck, like you were
correct.
saying. Most are stationary, so you,
Absolutely.
you were talking before about not wanting to be put in a box. And I feel like you're in a box, but this box is now mobile, so you still kind of broken out of that, out of that realm. And because you were so open to this gentleman that was standing outside, enjoying his medicine and weren't shut off, I think you received such a great idea and opportunity, and it's awesome to see that you ran with it.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Definitely ran with it. Like I drove off with it, really.
But no, well, back to what you were saying about the gentleman who said this was innovative, that you met at the conference.
So Mr. John Bailey, he's like, I don't want to get his title wrong, because in cannabis space, people tend to make your titles like this big, and y'all really be like just one thing. But
Hmm.
he does have a very honorable title. I don't want to take that from him, but I believe it's like the diversity and equity and inclusion for the entire cannabis industry, for minorities, and Mr. John Bailey. So y'all tell him that I gave him a shout out, but I appreciate it. I just did his title. And ironically, he was the recipient of like this, honorary member of the for the year. Like I don't know what the title of the award was, but I was just like, oh, I was talking to that man.
Didn't even
And
know it.
out, right?
Yep.
And so he was being interviewed by the moderator to ask, what are some innovative things that, this is a conference and you're going to have a lot of entrepreneurs. Can you give them some insight of what they should, kind of avenues, how they can get into the cannabis space, what they can create? He said, well, hell, there's a young lady from Atlanta. Her name is Sandy. Sandy, stand on up. I was like, oh my God.
Oh wow. How did you
Okay.
deal with that? How did you deal with that stage fright, that instant stage fright?
I'm not even going to lie. I don't think I think I just did like, I just did like this. And then all these people flocked to me. About, I want to say it was about 10 to about 12, maybe 10, 20, maybe 15. I was so overwhelmed. My mom was there because she's an MJ recipient out of Florida. And I just
Hmm.
thought I could learn from the conference, like, and be able to talk to the cannabis nurses of color to figure out like her regimen. Was it right? Was it wrong? Just get some
Hmm.
feedback.
Hmm.
And here it was, all these folks from Atlanta was there. And then they wanted me to fuse with them, like, yo, how can you be in our backyard? We don't know about you. And I
Hmm.
appreciate that. So then I became the little tag along sister. And because I'm so fresh out of, law enforcement, and everybody's joking, talking about, here, smoke this. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if I should, but whatever. So peer pressure was there a little bit, and
Hmm.
they were trying to, make sure that I was comfortable. No one really pressured me to do anything, in hindsight, but they were just so welcoming with the idea. They're so welcoming to, once we got back to Atlanta, kind of talk me around what can I do, uh, also, other than my idea with Hempbox.
Hmm.
So I told him that, the veteran crisis, the homeless crisis, is very important to me, and that's like a future project. And we talked about that I would want to focus on building, shipping containers for the homeless veterans, not
Hmm.
because they'd be thinking they going somewhere, but no, stationary
Hmm.
um, homes for the mobile or for the homeless veterans, and they just embrace that. And I've been having a lot of community events. And so I like to keep it small. I don't like doing the larger events, to be honest. So if somebody's listening to this and y'all thinking I'm gonna come to Georgia, the Gwinnett State Fair, I'm not coming. Okay, um, that's too much. I'm
Is it not? Are you saying that's not at this stage because
no,
you're
no,
not ready for it, or
No,
you're not interested in it?
I'm not interested in it at all.
Okay.
It's very taxing, and it is a lot because I didn't know anything about the food industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so how can you come from creating this idea with the box and just doing a play on word with like hemp protein bars, hemp smoothies, a hemp waffle, to now thousands of people wanting that versus maybe a couple of hundred.
Yeah,
and,
it's a
and
different scale.
yes, and so I can connect to those people more because I feel like at those events, like the fairs and the festivals, people are just, people are probably already medicated. They ain't gonna remember, what they ate at the corn dog. They'd be like, yo man, that was the lemonade stand. That lemonade was good. Or, hey, I had the turkey leg. Everybody stands in line for the turkey leg, right? But I just don't feel I would be my best effective self if I was,
Mm.
because it means more to me to be small and intimate and getting to know people and hear their concerns. Like this weekend I had, I'm sorry if I'm skipping topic, but
Oh no, go ahead.
I attended this expungement clinic, which was at City Hall, Atlanta City Hall. And there have been other cannabis representatives that have attended, for legislation movements and for social justice movement, but there has not been a person to actually bring, CBD and hemp products into the city hall and advocate for the people who are over there getting their records expunged, and then they come over and talk to me, like,
Mm.
"Hey, take a free hemp bar." Like, they were like, "Well, am I gonna get high?" No, you're not gonna get high. That's not.
Yep.
It's protein, omega 3, fatty acids. This is all the healthy stuff we need to
It's
keep you
food,
calm. Yeah, it's food. And matter of
healthy
fact,
food. Yeah.
grab a cutie and an apple while you're at it. You feel a little way.
Hmm.
I mean, like that. Hearing the stories of people not being able to get, hired as 911 dispatcher because she had a charge when she was 17 for possession of cannabis. There was a guy who had his own grow farm at his house. I was like, oh, he showed me all the pictures and everything. I was like, where you live? You know,
Mm.
because I just wanted to see his operation, and he might need to call y'all and get get that little, what is the
The
thing called?
TrellaGro LST. Yep.
There you go. I want
Yep.
to
Yep.
that again for me, just in case he's listening.
TrellaGro LST, a plant training system.
There you go, buddy. You need to get that because his plants were growing vertically, and I think he probably could utilize them more horizontally because he told me he was actually bipolar and schizophrenic. He figured out how to self medicate off the plant, and it took him 12 years to recognize his own mental condition. And then his
Mm.
wife from migraines, and they had like, both of them were there, so they both had like 3 charges. He had 3 charges. She had I think 2.
Gosh.
But a felony of the 3 charges. And here in the South, they love to what they call stack charges, right? So
Hmm.
stacking, I pull you over. I don't mean to get off task, but they pull you over, and next thing you know, it's for a tag. But if you're not, cooperating, now the officer is like, "Oh, your license suspended. Oh, and your tires bald. Oh, and your headlight out." So you just stack charges on this person, and all of those are misdemeanors because they're traffic misdemeanors. But still, they do, impact you in some way. You maybe
Hmm.
can't afford to pay for all of those, and that's what I believe was his scenario. But
Okay.
he in turn, um, you know, explained that his wife had these migraines, and he was growing his cannabis for her medicine as well. So I was like, oh my God, you guys have the best touching stories. And I wouldn't have gotten those stories from those people if I had not been at the expungement clinic,
Hmm.
to now see how the other side of justice can unfold, and how
Yeah.
people really want to decriminalize, cannabis. Like that's
Yeah.
a lot.
It- Can you touch on that just a little bit? What's going on in Georgia in regards to medicinal cannabis or recreational? I hear a little bit about it, but you probably have a lot more insight than I do.
So it's funny because earlier today, we have only two companies, and then there's this third company that's filtering in or cycling in, that have been awarded their cannabis licenses. That's I don't want to say their names because I don't want to get them credit on here.
I got you.
They're the corporations. But one of the last one is from out of Connecticut that has come down here and bought up land and started to grow fields.
Mm-hmm.
No one ever mentioned like black farmers. Like that's not ringing the bell. How did they come all the way from Connecticut to come down here? And I've been following cannabis for the last year, and I've not heard that conversation introduced. But there's only low THC oil.
Mm-hmm.
That's the medicinal care for the 9 conditions that they have authorized. And that's another thing. Every state has a different number of conditions. I don't agree with that. Like, okay, I got PTSD. Well, that's I think that's on pretty much everyone's state of conditions or medical conditions. But I remember not seeing like epilepsy on someone's, and I'm like, we
Mm.
have Epidiolex for that. Like, how is that not on your medical care or conditions list? So that like played a whole different part of my mentality of thinking what's wrong with our program. We don't
Mm-hmm.
There is not one. For 8 years, people had signed up for this registry to register as a patient. And that first company came in, and now all of a sudden, hey, our labs have been approved and we can now open to issue, these first patients their medicinal care, which only comes in the same type of uh, methods that I produce on
On
the
Hempbox.
truck. Yeah, on the truck. Um, but I'm just not in agreement with the corporations coming in. I think they should have opened it to local farmers first and gave them and people of color the opportunity and a chance for social equity. And I really hear that a lot in all the other states, but we don't even know what that is. We're still fighting to not be able to have to show your ID and your at the same time of your voting registration. Like we have voter suppression still going on. So it's like all these other issues, and nobody's thinking about cannabis, baby. They're like, oh, that's the last thing we're thinking about. Let's get these
Mm.
votes so we can get these people out. Like it's just so many things in women's health care. Like all those other issues really kind of overshadow the cannabis space. So
Mm.
people that have been waiting and trying to figure out what is our program. Like I said, those 3 companies, and they've been the only ones that try to create what we have. And then of the whole state, there's only 5 dispensaries amongst those 3 companies.
Wow.
Yeah, but one of those companies have at least 4 locations of the other 5.
Wow. And are they all kind of clustered or are they dispersed? Because Georgia's huge.
It is, and that's the thing. So you would think with, you know, maybe one that grow farm, but the 2 companies, you would think that one would be North Georgia, one would be South. So like, hey man, let's split it up. We ain't got to compete with each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Negative. They're in the same locations. Like one is across the street from in the same city, and they're just opening up in the same cities across the metro area. And people who are like on in rural areas now they're gonna have to drive all the way over. That's crazy. So it's still defeating the purpose of a medical plan. Like I know it's gonna take time for it to happen, just like in all the other, medical states, how it had to, pre-fold out to the real program or unfold to what everyone's expectations of what it looked like. But we just don't have enough boots on ground to make sure that the patients are receiving the best care possible. And I feel that with people like me who come in, like I said, with the community idea, that stands out more than getting the masses. And I'm not able to reach the masses. I'm able to reach community.
Yeah, and that I think honestly, just to go to agree with you on that community, I did a talk at South by Southwest in March,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really about because I'm a risk engineer as well. Before I got into cannabis, I was in risk engineering. So
That one of those
I look at these.
titles.
Sorry, one more time.
That one of those long corporate titles. No, I'm just playing.
I did, yeah. But basically, um, I look at these large cultivation centers and these conglomerates or the MSOs that are kind of taking over, and I see huge risk if one thing happens to one cultivation facility that's 100,000 square feet, that
Mhm.
impacts a lot of medicine for a lot of people. So to me, even definitely farm to table is crucial. It's more sustainable, it's easier. You're probably going to get access to healthier, better quality medicine when it's grown close to you and you know who's growing it. But
Mhm.
even from just a risk perspective, it should be smaller batches that are grown, so that we can make sure that they're going to be, if there's a disruption to one, it doesn't impact a large population. So community focused farming, I think, is perfect for that framework. It's small enough. It allows you to have that connection like you're talking about. It allows you to make sure that you're providing the medicine that's good for that community, because it could be different depending on where you are in state to state to state. Uh, so and that's the reason I love that you're kind of telling yourself, I want to stay um, connected. I want to stay small enough so that I can maintain that community. And I think going forward, as it gets into medicinal cannabis, and hopefully the state of Georgia will allow for home cultivation. I don't know if that's being pushed in any bills, but my whole theory is if it doesn't have home cultivation included in it, I'm not voting for it. Like, I say, don't vote for any bill that does not include home cultivation, because you're basically just setting yourself up to complete to continue the pharmaceutical industry
Right.
coming in and being the only provider for my medicine. It's a plant. I should be able to grow it myself and medicate myself. um, so hopefully it sounds like you're saying Georgia's not pushing for home cultivation. Is that right?
No, and speaking with one of the larger of the two MSOs, um, they said that they are not introducing flour to the state of Georgia for another 3 years. So only thing that I'm telling you, only thing that customers have access to are topicals,
Hmm.
capsules, and oil,
Processes.
and salves.
Hmm.
That's it. I mean, it's still topicals, but you know, and tinctures. So there's other avenues to secure those. In Delta 9, if you don't want to pay for your medical card, and you don't want to pay for, this low THC oil, because that's all you're getting from Georgia. That's it.
Hmm.
3 years, good lord, that's a long time. So we have a total of about 28,000 patients on the registry, and
Wow.
I feel that it's more.
Of
Um,
course.
but there's just not enough outreach. And then, like I'm saying, for me, I'm mobile, so I can focus on, taking Hempbox and talking about just CBD and hemp. So if you are not able to reach or afford these MSOs products, hey, I still have something that is much more effective, if not, even better.
Hmm. Yeah,
But,
probably. Yeah, because it's pure.
yep.
And hasn't been overly processed and manufactured. But I wanted to also talk about the box itself and how you designed it, and what you put into it. Because when I reached out to you, well, I think we met in New York.
We
Uh,
did.
we
And
met in New York very briefly, right?
yes. And
Eh,
because I actually was in Benzinga in Miami, and I was invited to New York through Faye Coleman. That's my favorite lady in the world.
Yeah.
You know, she invited me to the CWCB Expo, and I think we met at the yacht party.
Yep.
I,
Yep.
I was hungry, and I guys, I was like, well, I hadn't seen y'all. Were y'all in the conference? Because y'all be coming to the conferences, but y'all don't be coming to the conferences.
Well, no, I actually was a guest of someone.
Oh,
Did not go to the CW. I didn't buy tickets. I had no interest in going. I was in town with the Duchess working on a
oh,
grow trial that she's doing.
yes.
and they were going to the yacht party, and I said, "Well, I'm gonna hang in. I'll go too. It's lovely, water. I love being by the water. Any experience, any excuse for me to get on the water, I'm taking it." So
But what happened when we were on the water? What happened?
it rained
It rained. It
and
just
thundered.
today it rained. So this is, I'm usually a hair girl, but anyway.
Yeah.
But we met on the yacht. we met on the yacht party, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but the journey from the food truck, and the build out, it took me about a year because I was actually suffering with a medical injury. I was recovering. I had surgery to my right foot and ankle, and that was just the worst. I mean, because you got to drive with your right foot, so I'm being independent, and now I have to be dependent, and so much pain. And so I would actually have my friends to take me down to my contractor, and it's like maybe 45-50 minute drive, and I'm in the backseat going to see updates of the box. And he was like, "Sandy, you don't have to do that. We'll just send you video footage." I'm like, "Hell no,
Mm-mm.
I'm gonna hop it." So I will share that, like, once I do like this main event, and I'll show where Hempbox started, like me standing there on the crutches with it, in the framing, the sheet, the not sheetrock, the foam insulation, and then
Hmm.
plywood over it. Like, it's like building a house. And I
Let
was
me
just,
bring it up for people so they can see what we're talking about here. Go ahead.
yeah. If you go all the way down to like the first, like, video, or not video, but the first, if you have access to do that, on my page, all the way down, it shows the journey of how Hempbox looked like as a skeleton, like it was just a shell. Yeah, keep going. And there it is. Bam.
This is it right here.
Yep.
Oh wow.
So I think it's gonna play, and then it'll show like the inside. I'm not sure. Yeah, there it is. It'll play. But it was like this whole little thing. See, it looks like a little cute little Rubik's cube. But I was standing there with my crutches on. And I just remember, it took a long time, but normally, a project this size could be completed in about 8 weeks. So it took me a year because, like I said, I was recovering 4 months. I couldn't walk at all. And then I wanted certain things in there that had to fit the items that I wanted to serve. Like,
Hmm.
a regular food truck, most people have like a fryer, a deep fryer, and all that stuff. I didn't have that because I didn't want that in Hempbox. I just wanted to stay basic. I wanted the conversation to be about hemp and CBD. If I'm serving chicken like everybody else, now you just focus on hurry up and getting your chicken and waffles. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
that to be the whole focus of Hempbox. So I just remember how that day was when I finally walked in, and the paneling is up. They were wrapping it on that day. That's the wrap. And me doing a little work too.
There you go.
Yeah. And in the midst of that, when I did begin to walk, that's me in that last picture. I'm in Hoboken Farms in California,
Hmm.
uh, getting some fresh tour around the green.
That's awesome, Sandy. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Now, you this is self-funded. You use your own finances to do this, correct?
absolutely. I sure did. Bootstrapped it. And that's the struggle with the Black and Brown community. We don't have
Mhm.
the resources. We don't have, some people are not there. If you're just starting, where's your 2 years of tax returns for your business? You don't have those things that they're looking for to get you started, to even get a business loan, because you may find a startup funding company to provide that, but they're asking for your 2 years of tax
One
history.
left, yeah, and one left leg.
And yeah, and that too. um, but since I've been in the space, that's inside.
Oh,
Since
that's nice.
space, there have been a lot of funding, cannabis funding companies that really don't have like really high interest rates. If you are interested in those, I don't have any that are linked or anything. But if people wanted to, reach out to me, I could give you the connections to those people that I do know, if those people are looking for funding in that manner. But I personally didn't use that. This come from hard earned sweat and tears and work, right? So
Yep.
I sacrificed because I knew that um, I wanted to focus on finally taking a chance on myself. Whereas I feel like I told you every after being a veteran, I felt like I needed that camaraderie with that. And after I need, been a law enforcement officer, I needed camaraderie with that and a contractor. Like I'm like, I finally get it. I don't need all these people. I need community.
Mm.
That's what makes me unique because I always love to help people. And I think that was the baseline of every career that I've had is that my mom used to say, "You were such a sweetest child." And she said, until always were a class clown because I did used to joke a lot. But
Really?
I did. And
Me too. I used to get in trouble sometimes for being a little goofy.
yeah,
Yep.
all the time.
Yep.
But I just always loved to help people. I would be the teenager volunteering, pulling Miss Johnson's trash in, or going to the nursing home on a Saturday and a Sunday where everybody else is going to the movies or the fair, or something like that. I grew up in a small town in
Hmm.
Florida, so we didn't have much activity to do, but I wasn't participating. But the baseline, like I said, I just always loved to help people, and Hempbox really is the basis for all that. Is just being able to connect to people and community and serve the primary missions in my mind futuristically. I want to be able to extend that to like I said, homeless veterans, sexual assault victims, and domestic violence victims, and human trafficking. So i just I just always just want to make sure that the objective is there, right, that people know
Hmm.
what box means, and that it came from a place of a lot of creation. But we're here to, bottom line up front, educate Georgians on CBD and hemp. So if you don't want that when you pull up to the box, then this is not the box. This is not the place for you to. Okay, keep
Yep.
rolling.
Keep trekking. Now, if for those people that do want to connect with you, how could they find you in Georgia? I mean, for people that live in the state that might be close to Atlanta, how far out do you travel? How often do you travel? How can they find you?
So I am on, as you just shown, Instagram. That's probably my most popular page, and I feel like Instagram is the best social media platform for us in the space because it seems like we get kicked off of everything else, and Instagram may kick us off a couple times too. But if
Yeah,
you
they do.
they'll bring you back. But
Mhm.
um, so Hempbox, ETC. So it's one word, Hempbox, etc. on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And then I have my CBD product line, which I told you I operate in a gray space. So if I'm at an event that has, like I said, a couple of hundred people, I will bring Hempbox Essentials, and that is my CBD line. Hempbox
Mhm.
Essentials is the CBD line, and Hempbox etc. is the actual box.
Got
And
you.
I just merged the two, so I may have some products on the truck. If not, visit the website, and we'll get you what you need.
Yeah, yeah. When's your next showing?
Um, Next, I believe I have an event next Monday, if I'm not mistaken. But
Okay.
I always drop it in my stories because people are like, "Are you out every day?" And initially, I was out every day, but I just needed to kind of reset because this is my first time doing it, and I'm not too hard on myself. Like we all are still learning in every avenue of the cannabis space, right? Like
Yep.
you said, come from cannabis, we found our way in it, and I just found like operating every day, I wasn't ready yet,
Hmm.
but having certain events that I can go to and preparing makes me the best person when I'm there, and it gives us the best presentation of Hempbox when I'm not like overwhelmed with large numbers of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent.
So that's when you can find me. I'll pin it on in our stories and on all the platforms, but I'm not sure where it is, so I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, just follow us on Instagram, and you'll find out where we are, or on TikTok.
Yep.
Um, that's
So
another.
you
Mhm.
everybody, you heard that at Hempbox, etc. etc. Hemp, at Hempbox, etc., and
Mhm.
follow the stories because that's the key. I think that
Yeah.
you're saying you put a lot of that information in the stories, so check out those stories.
I share a lot of things in the story. It could be, an expungement event. It could be, a conference, maybe someone didn't know and they're interested in getting into the cannabis space. And I say, if you are, that's where you start. You attend as many conferences as you can or as many as you can afford. Don't try to set yourself up and go to all of them for the whole year because that's not going to work, And I was all, so happy. And that's kind of what I almost did last year. I went to like maybe 7 conferences.
Oh
But
wow.
yeah, I was just so excited, and everyone had like a different place for me. But for someone else, maybe it'll all seem the same. So
Mhm.
just pick kind of, read over these conferences and follow different platforms so that you can be aware where these conferences are at. Some of them may be in your backyard, you just don't know it. But if you're in Georgia, they're not in our backyard, okay?
So you got to travel a bit, and I would also say make sure that you make sure that you do like grassroots organizations and groups too, because that's a lot of people. They don't get as much marketing or as much push out there, but they have a lot more real and insightful, I think, information and education. For me, that's been my experience, from a person that's more hands on and wants to be a cultivator and do that type of thing. Um, but yeah, you do have to get out there, especially if you can't stay in your bubble and get and do well. I think in the cannabis space, you do have to get out there to some extent.
Right. And those little festivals, and my friend always jokes and I say, oh, I love like my earthy sisters, you know what I'm saying, my earthy brothers and sisters, where we have like the beads on and we have, we're Juneteenthers. Like that's where you want to be. You want to be with people who are holistic. You want to be with people who care about their insides. I
Hmm.
be around folks who still want to eat cheeseburgers all day and French fries, or you want to pull up Chick-fil-A every day. No, like what are you putting in your bodies? Like, let's have a conversation. Like, really, what do you wash your face with? Like, I'm so
Mm.
in tune with all that stuff. Like, I want somebody to come out with this real bomb CBD shampoo, or that's for black folk. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yep.
I'm speaking that to somebody. I don't know who it is calling.
It's out there. I can't remember
It's
where
a
I was when I found it, but I think I was in New York at an event and I ran into a sister that's doing that type of thing. So there's someone doing it.
baby. I'm gonna look for her because I love my hair, baby, and I feel like that CBD or hemp would get in there, and you might find me. I'll be down here next year.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's a journey. I feel like once I figured out, because I consumed cannabis recreationally when I was in college and playing sports a little bit. I did it to help with, pain management. Um, and then it wasn't until I started learning about the history of cannabis, um, and then the medicinal benefits that I started to use it, and it opened up my whole brain to what are you feeding yourself, what are you putting on your skin. Like it was a process. It wasn't something that I just changed all in
Oh,
1 year.
hmm
It's been, and I still, there's always something that I'm tweaking and I'm learning and I'm modifying for myself. So it's a journey. It
it,
definitely is.
it is, and then you got to be cognizant of what we do daily. Like it could be just driving. Like some people need to make sure that they consume their medications before they drive because you may be a little too crunk to drive. So
Mm,
you conscious and cognizant, like, oh man, I forgot my such and such, or my vape pen, or my driving. Now I will say that, admit, like I have to put that on every day, like on my ankle and my knee and my foot, because
mm,
CBD products are, they control that pain management and inflammation.
yeah.
And if you know Atlanta, you're gonna be stuck in some traffic. So you press the brake, stop, go, stop, go, you know. I just put the thing in hold and I just be sitting there. But yeah, holistically, like cannabis, CBD, hemp, it's all about the entire plant, being holistic in your intention to use it, coming up with creative ideas to make other people aware about it, and sharing your story, sharing your journey with whatever piece of that you're comfortable with sharing. Just make sure that it's safe for you.
Hmm.
But so glad that we connected, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to come on again. Hopefully it'll be like a hemp box, like building or something. I don't know if I go in brick and mortar, but most likely it'll probably just come off and sit somewhere. But
Mhm.
um, I'm thinking about, some franchising opportunities that have come rolling around. You know,
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm wondering. Like, I'm wondering, are you thinking about doing a bigger one? Like you and I mentioned,
yeah.
I want to, Trella Grow LST is perfect for container farms. So trying to figure out what size would Trella need, and all the logistics behind that. So I'm still working on it. We got a few other like projects that got to happen first, but um, I'm really thankful that you and I connected. I'm really grateful that you responded so openly and so willingly to share and to get on the phone and to connect, because not everyone's like that. So I think
Thanks.
you eventually start to figure, like, like attracts like, so we eventually start
Of,
to find each other,
of
and
course.
it's like, uh I don't know if it's a, I'm 40, I'm 43, I'll be 44 in September, so I don't even know. I don't even know if it's like a, an age thing or what, but generational type of thing. But I am really trying to find um honest, genuine Black
Like
women in the space
like
that
minded.
like-minded, that want to build something, and want to do things a little bit differently than the corporate path. So I'm so glad that we got a chance to connect. Of course, we would definitely love to have you again. When you do something, please let me know. We're going to stay connected nonetheless.
Of course. You're my sister from another mister. That's I love.
Excellent.
Thank you
Yep.
so much for having me. I don't know if I left out anything. Any other question you want to ask that I may have forgotten? Um, I don't think so, but
No,
eh,
but we can always hit it up on the next one, if something comes to mind. But I think really wanted to know who you are, what drives you. I got that answer 100%, and I'm really thrilled to learn more, because it really let me know that this was a great move. I hope that the audience enjoyed it as well. Thank you, Marquita, for your love and your support throughout this conversation, and for sticking with us, all of you who did. If you're catching this on the recording, um, and you're still with us and you haven't subscribed or liked, please do. Don't forget to reach out to Sandy through Hempbox, etc. Follow those stories, because that's where she puts the events, and where she'll be, and where and when she'll be there. So make sure you're checking out those stories.
absolutely.
So, and next week we'll be back. Next Monday, 7:30 p.m. We'll have another special guest. So stick around on Trella's page to find out who that's going to be. And we'll be live next Monday, 7:30 p.m. And mad peace and love to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.